This is the Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, Kim Seltzer, a dating and makeover expert, where I will help you build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. Today, I am back doing another episode of Where Are They Now? I am just so excited that there's so many Where Are They Now episodes because everyone is having just amazing success. And for those of you who haven't heard the first episodes of these series, I'll recap. As you know, I coach a lot of people. And of course, you've heard me coaching people live on this podcast with my Coaching with Kim episodes. I also have a ton of clients who I send off into the world after coaching with them. And it's amazing and rewarding when I hear all these success stories. And I read thousands of emails of previous clients updating me on how their life has improved and often how they find love. So I do these Where Are They Now episodes to really inspire you and motivate you by hearing what happens to people after I work with them. So whether that is just having one coaching call on this podcast or working with them over time as clients, I hope you listen to these and get inspired by people's successes and know that the success can happen to you too. And it all starts with a call. So today I'm bringing on someone where it all started with a call. And actually she had been a podcast listener for a very, long time. And she finally had a breakthrough call. And when we first spoke, she was kind of recovering from a relationship. She had broken up with a guy, I think it was of 6 months, and was in therapy. She was working on herself, but she felt like there was just a lot of talking and she tends to be analytical in nature. And so she was analyzing, she was talking, but there was not enough action. And so when we spoke, she was saying how, she wasn't sure who she was and what she needed to do. She was really confused. Flirting was hard for her. She hated getting attention, and she associated dressing up with being too much. And she recognized that she had to be more comfortable in her body and in her sexy side. She didn't have a lot of single friends, so that needed to change. And she did fall into that trap of being kind of an overgiver, and she would sacrifice a lot, but then she wouldn't get her needs met. So she really needed to learn how to open up, be vulnerable, and not morph herself into what others wanted of her. Because with all of those dynamics, she was attracting, guess what? Narcissists and having lopsided relationships overall. So she realized that she needed more coaching to really work on building her dating skills, building her self-esteem and confidence overall. So she signed up for my 3-month phone coaching program, but I'll let her tell you all about it. Welcome, Cathy. Are you there?
Hi, I'm here.
Hi. It's so good to talk to you. I'm so happy for you. And I can't wait to share everything about your new confidence, but really your new sexy confidence too. Like that was really fun to see you blossom. And you've also been attracting great men in your life and dating up a storm. A lot of fun things are happening. So, I just wanted maybe to start off by sharing. I mean, I obviously had snippets of what our first call was about, but maybe if you could just share what life was like before you did that first call, like what were some of the challenges you had before coming to me?
Yeah, I think my biggest challenge was really the confusion I had around dating and how I was when I was dating guys. I wasn't really clear on what exactly wasn't working, but I definitely knew there were some barriers there that I needed to figure out, and was just kind of feeling frustrated and lacked a lot of confidence. And so I felt like the best way to really tackle that was to really get to work with you and hear what your thoughts were on everything that I was doing.
Yeah. And I remember also that there's a lot of anxiety around a lot of it too, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I just in general, I kind of was like overthinking a lot of things about my life and had a ton of anxiety about putting myself out there and what it should look like. And I felt like I wasn't really clear on like all of the, like, what I should be doing, what I should look like. And that was actually a
Mm.
really big thing that I worked on with you, that I got really clear about how to kind of overcome that. So, yeah, there was a lot of
Yeah.
anxiety.
Yeah, that was like you kind of left that big thing out. I like,
Yeah.
didn't you have well, and not only that, and you can talk about this too, because this is often the case. What shows up in one area of your life leaks into others, right? And so this wasn't the anxiety you felt and the lack of clarity wasn't just around dating, right?
Oh, yeah, no. And it's been a big thing for me, just having anxiety about lots of different things and really overthinking on things that really I don't need to be worrying about as much as I was. And I think now it's really interesting to look back on that time, because I've just worked through so much of this stuff with you that it seems like it was like so long ago and like an old part of myself. But yeah,
Oh, that's so
that was a
cool.
huge thing for me to work through. Yeah.
Yeah, it is weird, right? Like when you go through the tunnel and you're in the light and then you look back and you're like, "Wait a second, was that me?" Like it's almost like another person that you're looking back
Yeah,
on.
totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
What and we talked about this a little, but where did a lot of that kind of anxiety come from, if you don't mind you sharing that? Because I know a lot of people have just dealt with anxiety, in general, and it really can be debilitating.
Yes, yeah. A big part of my anxiety came from when I was growing up in my family life, and there was a lot of dynamics with my dad, actually, who was hyper focused on me and kind of relied on me a lot for emotional support. And that's something I've
Mm.
always been aware of. But I don't think I really drilled down quite as much as I did with you, as far as like how it's affecting me now and where a lot of that anxiety was rooted from. And so that really played out in my life, both in relationships and just all areas of my life, really, where I was very anxious about getting attention and like being seen. And it made me very uncomfortable, because I felt that kind of like I was scared I was going to get that attachment that I had with my dad that required so much energy on my part to give him so much emotional support.
Yeah.
And that was huge. I mean, again, it's like something I was pretty aware of, but I really needed to work through how it was still affecting me, and kind of look at it in a different way, that you really helped me work through that in some really big ways.
Oh my God, that's really powerful what you just said. Cause I mean, we all have stuff that we grew up with. And sometimes like you'll have an understanding, and especially if you've been in therapy for a while, you know where things are coming from. But I think where the disconnect is a lot of times is the now what? It's like, okay, I know where this is coming from, but first of all, how is that connected to my relationships and the way I'm dating now? And then what do I do about it? And I think that's where you were at, like, because you really were pretty self-aware. I remember that. Like you knew all the lingo. I even felt like I was talking to a mini therapist on our first call, because you had like all the terms. You knew like, the stuff that you were grappling with, but it was more how to really get a handle on this so that you could shift the way that you were dating just on a practical level.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what I was wondering. What were some of the things that you learned? Like maybe, a couple skills that or tools that you gained along the way that helped you get over that hump?
Well, I honestly think one of the biggest things, and it seems so simple now, but
Right.
really it was not. It took a lot of work and a lot of reflection on my part. But you had me do some exercises where I was, going to go out and be seen, and kind of like working on not um, pushing away that attention that I would get, whether it was just like in the grocery store or out at dinner
Hmm.
with friends, or even in work, and especially like on dates. And I was very good at shutting away that attention. And
Hmm.
so really working on being seen, but also being really comfortable being seen, and what that would be like for me a completely new thing to try because normally I would have I felt like I had control over it. Like I could decide when I was going to be seen and when I didn't want to be seen. And just letting that go and letting attention come or not, and just kind of releasing that control was huge for me. And
Yeah.
I learned a lot about how that made me feel, what kinds of things were going to happen. And
Mhm.
nothing bad happened, like I didn't have some surge and like unwanted attention, which is what I think I was always scared about. But like there were just really nice gestures that people started making towards me, and I got some really nice interactions, I guess. And it was a really interesting process to go through. And I can't emphasize enough, again, like how simple it sounds when I say that, but it really was a huge thing that did a lot for my confidence and let
Yeah.
me kind of let down my guard in some really big ways.
I remember too seeing some of your first pictures. Like, do you wanna share some of the things you did to be seen? Do you remember what you did?
Yes. I I did the thing where I like wore a dress and went to the grocery
Mhm.
store, and that was huge. It was interesting and I think the other thing too about this was it's not just doing it, but it's really paying attention to what's happening when you're doing it, and then
100%.
also paying attention to
Yes.
like what was happening for me, which through the course of working with you was one of the biggest things that kept happening over and over. Was it was like, well, how do I feel in this situation and what's happening for me? And that's really stuck with me. But anyway, so that was one thing. And then also just getting more photos of myself and getting
Uh-huh.
photos of me like in dresses. And then I went and used some of those, as you know, on my dating profile and just had like really, really good responses. And I,
Oh, wait, not just really
I'm
good
shocked.
oh, wait, Kathy, not just really good responses. I mean, this was, like, huge, and we can share at the end, like, just some of the success you've had around that. But can I just pause for a second and share because I'll never forget the first email that I got from you, and there were like you were still playing it kind of like conservative, and you sent me pictures that were just like a notch up from what you normally would, and then there was that one dress shot. I'm like, wait a second, I want to see more of that. I'll never forget. And you looked gorgeous, and you're like, I'm still not comfortable. This is so weird. I don't take pictures of me, and and I remember you going through that whole process, and I was kind of like a hard ass with you. I'm like, no, you really need to keep doing this, and we're not like gonna settle for the comfort zone pictures. That we want to put more dress pictures out. Do you remember that that
Yes,
email?
yes, I do. I definitely remember that.
Yeah.
And I, I think, I'm not someone who like takes a lot of photos of myself or asks to
Mhm.
do that, or like, I'm pretty shy with those kinds of things. And so that really pushed me to go do that. And, I had like a photo shoot with someone I was visiting on vacation, and it was just like this whole thing. And it felt awkward at the time, but now it really pushed me in a way that I really needed to be pushed to see myself that way and to put myself out there in that way. And that really did a lot for me and kind of how I viewed just putting myself out there.
And now she has boudoir pictures on Instagram. You can go to her Instagram handle. No, I'm just kidding. You were no, but you really got into your comfort zone there. But you said something that was so important, and I want to just highlight that is that it wasn't just the mere fact of getting comfortable with the picture, seeing yourself, having just kind of the courage to get past some of the like gremlins you had about yourself. But then it was connecting the feeling that you were having around that, the feeling of being seen, the feeling of getting attention and being comfortable with that. Because as you indicated, growing up, you weren't taught to pay attention to your feelings. You were taught to pay attention to, giving support to your dad or, whoever it was, other people. And so learning that skill of just receiving and then knowing how it felt and connecting that with your body and your feelings was just huge for you.
Yeah, that was absolutely huge. And I still am kind of in shock as far as like how much that did for me and really making that
Mm.
connection. And I think it sounded really scary in the beginning because I thought it was going to be all of this like energy I was going to have to give, and it was going to be all this attention that I was going to have to somehow deal with. And really what I found was that it was a big release for me. I was able
Mm.
to just like be lighter with things, and it was almost like it was more energy to keep those walls up than to just kind of like let go and be seen and be okay with it.
I
And
love
from that
it.
place, I really was able to just be a lot more me, I guess, is the simple way of putting it. And that was a really big thing for me. So,
Oh my God,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, it was like the authentic you, not shape-shifting into something what others want to see of you. And that was a huge thing for you. And why also then you started dating more authentically. So that's what I was going to ask you too. What are some other things that worked for you? And then, as you got out there dating?
I think some other things that really worked was just being a little less serious and heavy about the whole process and just kind
Yes.
of having fun with it, you know?
Mhm.
And that kind of went hand in hand with the whole flirting thing and just not being too attached to the process or the outcome of what was going to happen, but just, I mean, and really genuinely actually having fun, not like faking it or whatever. And that was that was really good for me to go through, and I still have that mindset. And it's kind of changed the way I look at dating at this point in my life too. Kind of like I don't need to have so much emphasis on the process necessarily, and I've
Yeah.
kind of taken myself like a step back and looked at it from a lens of like I'm gonna hopefully one day marry one guy, and in the meantime I have to deal with all these guys that I'm talking to, and you can't be so serious about it because at the end of the day it's like there's no need to get stressed about the process because when it
Mhm.
happens, it'll happen, and you might as well just have fun with the guys that you're talking to in the meantime. Like we're all in this together, like that kind of mentality really helped me a lot.
Oh my God, I love that. And I was cracking up on our last call. You said something really funny I wanted you to share with me. You're like, Kim, I actually welcome. Do you remember what you said to me? I actually
Yes,
welcome like
yeah,
the scammers or whatever it was, and you think it's funny. Like, well, what did
yeah.
you say?
I call them the crazies
Oh, the
on
crazies,
Tinder.
right.
So whenever I go to get on Tinder, I say to myself, "Oh, I wonder what all the crazies are up to." Just because you get some weird stuff. Like the whole process is totally crazy these days with what you
Mm,
have to go through with dating. And you can either be bitter about it and be mad about some date that went terrible or like, whatever, or you can just kind of go with it and embrace it. And it is what it is.
totally. Yeah.
So that's, yeah, I kind of look at it that way, I guess.
And it goes hand in hand with, when you have a lot of anxiety in your head a lot and you're spending so much energy trying to do what other people want of you, there's this kind of serious tone that happens when you're going out on dates, the way you're communicating, your approach, your perspective, everything's so serious and hyper focused. And I think what you're saying is so good for other people to hear is that it should be light. It should be fun. It should be funny. And to have that positive kind of humorous attitude about it, that's when things start getting fun and you start getting results and meeting some really cool people to connect with.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally. And I've noticed that too, just like the connections are better when you're more light with things and just kind of trying to have fun through it all. So yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, so how are your connections now too, would you say? Do you want to describe a little bit about what worked for you and the way that you've been dating now?
Yeah, I think the way I've been dating has definitely changed. I've been, like I said before, just really noticing a lot that's going on with me as it relates to the guy I'm on a date with, and that's been really good to start paying attention to that. But I've really been able to connect more and have more meaningful conversations and offer more, about myself and just being more comfortable in doing that. And that has also applied to other areas of my life, both in like friendships and at work. It's been happening a lot as well. And it's all just been really good.
I so love that. I so love that. So, I mean, maybe to recap, I mean, there's so many great things that are happening. What is your life like now? Like what has kind of been like the success for you in your dating life? And are you meeting your goals of where you want to be?
Yeah, I'm definitely meeting my goals. I mean, right now I'm still just dating and giving myself some space without rushing into anything. And that's been a big thing for me is not rushing into a relationship and just dating and being kind of upfront about that. And I think the biggest thing that I've taken away that has stuck with me, and it's applied to all areas of my life, is really just having this like new kind of energy about myself and
Mm,
more of an openness that has really been huge in how I date, but also how I interpret like after the fact. You know, I'm not super attached to any one guy or anything until it progresses more, you know, and I don't have as much anxiety for sure with kind of that new attitude and the new energy. So I think those
that's
have been some of the
huge.
biggest things for me.
Those are huge. And you know, I always say like success is different for everyone. Everyone is in different places on their continuum and what they want, you know. Some people's success is they get a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Some people's success is just learning how to date without attachment, you know. Some success is just feeling that sexy confidence, you know, where and it's where you're at. And it sounds like that's what's creating that happiness for you is that you're content and happy with what you wanted for your life and now that you have this new attitude you will have a healthier relationship in the future when that happens and it'll definitely happen. So I'm just it's so awesome. It's so awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I wondered, is there anything, since obviously I always like want to give people an opportunity to get a little coaching on here too. Is there anything that you're still wanting some advice around or help with?
Well, I think the only thing, and we kind of talked about this a little bit, but is really now when I'm dating a guy or multiple guys, that gets me into like this weird situation where, you know, I don't want to play games or I want
Hmm.
to be very upfront with people about what's going on, but I'm not very good at that. Like I'm not very good at dating multiple people and I
Yeah.
guess I just have I need advice on what to do there.
Yes. This is like actually the number one question people have, especially when you're relationship oriented and you've never had a period of time where you're just dating without attachment. So it's a really, really good question. And I don't remember if you and I went over this, but I'll review it if we have. And also just for people listening, in that, you know, first and foremost, I always like to think about people in the way of buckets. I know this sounds awful, but it's really like there I put people in three different buckets when you're dating, okay? And this is something that you can think about because often what happens when you're dating multiple people is there's a guilt factor that starts happening. You know, you feel guilty and you don't know what to do, especially when you're a caretaker. Is that part of what's happening?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, totally.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'll go over the three buckets, and this is really helpful. And when you're going out with people, you're going to be putting them in one of these three buckets. So, the first bucket is what I call just like the fun bucket. Okay. You know, when you meet some people or guys in your case where, okay, he is really cute, he's really hot, maybe he's great for, you know, a little smooching, maybe he's funny, but oh my God, he's just not relationship oriented at all. And nor would you even foresee him as that. Right. And so I
Hmm.
put those guys in the fun bucket and say, you know what? I like him. This is really fun. I feel like I'm getting my mojo back with this guy. But yeah, he's not relationship material. Okay. So he goes in the fun bucket. Now, the crucial thing about the fun bucket, guys, and this will help you with your guilt factor, is to just be upfront of what it is. You know, it's like, hey, I really like you.
Hmm.
This is super fun, not looking for a relationship kind of talk. And if he's game and you're game, awesome. So then you can kind of like tap in, tap out with these guys and not really have any guilt around it. Okay. So that's the fun guy. Then the second bucket is what I call the potential bucket. Now, these are the potentials that you're like, wow, I'm seeing some things that I really like, and you're kind of filing away data, the data collection as you're dating. And the more you get to know him, you're thinking, yeah, this guy has a lot of potential. Now, the guys with potential, you're going to pace out differently than the ones that are like the fun bucket, because the fun bucket you can go really fast with because you don't care. But the potential ones, you're going to want to slow down and really pace things out. And in the process, especially this is going to be true for you, Cathy, is that you want to pay attention on how you're feeling. So I would definitely advise you to, every time you have a date, write down your feelings, or, record your feelings and pay attention to what is beneficial for you, what you like about it. You can even like journal about, the different qualities that is really appealing to you and why he's falling into the potential bucket. Now, the third bucket is I just call question mark, because sometimes you're dating somebody and you don't know which way he's going to go. So eventually that question mark bucket, they're going to fall into one of the two, the fun or the potential. And I just find
Mhm.
that when you date like this and you're able to kind of, place people accordingly and be upfront and communicate your intentions, dating becomes so much easier and you don't have to have guilt around it, because like you said, we're all in this together. Everybody's dating everybody. And until something becomes, real, and you'll know when that happens and you're ready, then that's a different conversation. But when you're in this phase, I call the courting phase, it's really helpful to do these kind of bucket things. Does that all make sense, or what do you think about that?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like thinking about it that way. That totally makes sense.
It helps take the guilt out of it. But the biggest thing, and this is where you and I did a lot of work on, is just expressing your feelings. Like, I love this. I'm having so much fun, and I'm not really looking to do anything more with this, to the fun bucket guys. And the potential ones, you don't really have to say, oh, I really see you as my boyfriend in 3 months. Like, of course, you're not going to say that. But you can give him indications how you're feeling along the way. Like, I really enjoy spending my time with you. I love getting to know you. I like this about you. So that there's that expression of, hey, I like you, kind of thing. So
Mhm.
that's going to be crucial, especially for you. You're like, okay,
Got it. Bucket.
check, check. So any last kind of parting words of wisdom? And like, one question I have is, if you knew then what you knew now, and for people who are thinking about maybe taking it to the next level to go coaching, like what advice would you give? Like what helped you kind of finally bite the bullet and do this?
I think I realized, or I always knew that this was it's a huge thing that you want out of life. I think pretty much
Yeah.
anyone probably wants a good relationship and to be able to connect with somebody. And the barriers I was facing were just overwhelming. And I knew I needed help. And I knew I needed help that was someone, something that was going to really push me and give me tools versus, I think about it a lot differently than like therapy, which is good for a lot of things, but I really just needed someone to like coach me. And
Mm.
after listening to you on your podcast and then after talking to you on the phone and everything, I really knew that this was something that was going to help me out a lot. And it definitely, I didn't know how much it was going to help me. It helped me way more than I could have ever imagined. And, um,
Mm.
so yeah, yeah.
I love that. I love that. And you have to keep in contact with me, and to let everybody know that once she put her dress pictures up, what what happened? Like what's happening in your profile? Just like I think that's a good like parting words for you.
Yeah, it's actually a lot of really nice compliments.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of guys, connect with me and just say like, just really nice things. And, it's been good.
It's awesome. And just to highlight is that this isn't about changing who you are. This is about marketing yourself. It's about expressing yourself so that a guy or a girl gets to know who you are. And that is what happened to you. You really became like your authentic self, and now you're reaping the benefits from it. So, Kathy, I wish you luck, and please, please stay in contact with me. It was really special working with you.
Okay, thank you. You too, Kim.
Okay. And again, thanks for joining me. And this has been the Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, of course, Kim Seltzer. And remember, you can build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. Make sure, as always, you go to my site, seltzerstyle.com, to see more ways I can help you. And if you are finding yourself analyzing things to death, and not taking enough action to make changes in your life, then let me kick you in the butt and hop on a call with me by clicking on the link in the show description. That 30 minutes could change the course of your entire life, like it did for Kathy. And who knows, maybe you will be the next star in my Where Are They Now episodes to talk about your successes. And stay tuned until next week with more tips on how to feel and look fabulous every day.